The Pro-Q4 is here and there's reason to be excited. The Pro-Q3 is probably the most used plugin for most engineers today, and while the Pro-Q4 is a step up in many ways, some features concern me and in my opinion represent a trend in audio that's more harmful than beneficial for most engineers. We'll look behind the scenes of this plugin while I cover what's been added from the last version so that you can make more informed decisions while using it or decide if it's worth adding to your vocal, instrument bus, or mix bus chains. So let's get into the Pro-Q4, the good, the bad, and the unnecessary. Starting on a positive note, let's cover the good. Now, right when you open the plugin, you'll notice improvements in the user interface. The developers at FabFilter are experts in creating intuitive layouts and combining that with an incredibly well-optimized plugin. The result is an enjoyable and responsive plugin that allows for quick and effortless changes. As you may have noticed from other videos about this plugin, you can quickly edit other instances of the plugin by clicking the track title tab at the bottom, which just makes equalizing tracks around one another a seamless experience. But by far, the most exciting new addition, to me at least, is the continuous slope feature. In almost every EQ, both digital and analog, we've been limited to specific slope values, 6 dB per octave, 12 dB per octave, and so on. And of course, some analog EQs have imperfections that add some small variation to slope values, giving them a distinct sound. So, the ability to change the slope by 0.1 dB increments while altering the Q value and introducing amplitude-dependent Q values takes parametric EQ, which is all about controlling minute details, to a new level. Now, aside from specific harmonic distortion, just about any analog equalizer can be emulated more accurately than ever before. Now, you pair this with the natural phase setting that mimics phase rotation in analog gear, and this plugin becomes the ultimate analog EQ emulator. For example, a while ago I made some presets with the Pro-Q3 that mimic the width and the depth functions of the Neve Portico. They're close to the original, but now with the Pro-Q4, I could fine-tune the slopes of each band to almost perfectly match the unit. Now, another feature that I genuinely enjoy is the warm setting. Getting a second-order harmonic without the addition of odd-ordered harmonics is difficult, and it takes some behind-the-scenes trickery to pull it off. The Pro-Q4 does just that. This means that if the fundamental frequency triggers the saturation, which it likely will due to a gradual roll-off of sub-frequencies and a slight emphasis on what's typically the fundamental range, then I'll achieve a perfect octave overtone. Now currently, I don't know of another saturator or plugin that can pull off an isolated second-order harmonic. So that's the good. Although it may seem short when it's compared to the bad section of this video, make no mistake, I think these changes are fantastic and they represent a huge step forward. So here's the bad. Now there's a common argument being made about plugins. I noticed it when I critiqued Soothe 2 a while back. That is, a tool is a tool and it could be misused just like any other. And that's true, but not all tools are the same. It might be a dumb example, but the amount of damage that someone could do with a hammer isn't the same as what they could do with a bulldozer. Tools are different, and by extension, so are plugins. So when I notice a certain tool that can cause a lot more damage than the typical compressor, EQ, saturator, reverb, etc., then I think it's worth talking about. And that's exactly the case with the spectral function of this EQ. On the surface, it splits the selected bandwidth into multiple smaller bands that can trigger a threshold, resulting in precise frequency-specific attenuation. Now this could be really useful. Maybe you want to use this EQ for de-essing, but you want the attenuation to be really specific. Or maybe you want to attenuate the scrape of a guitar, and it just so happens to be higher in amplitude than any other signals in the range that you want to keep. But those are pretty niche examples. So, for the most part, I can't figure out what this function is for, other than to make someone feel as if something is wrong with the frequency response, and that this plugin is fixing what's wrong. And to be clear, a resonance being higher in amplitude is not a bad thing. It's often what creates the timbre of a particular instrument. And so I worry about a newer or even intermediate engineer looking at this and thinking, well, this is going to balance everything in my mix. But that's not the truth. If anything, it's going to homogenize everything. The distinct overtones of an instrument or a vocal are not something to eliminate, they're the very essence of that instrument. And I'm not just being dramatic here. In the manual, it says this function is for treating varying problem frequencies. But look at the example that they give. How can all of these frequencies be a problem? What about these frequencies makes them a problem, if the only means by which they're identified is by having a higher amplitude than other frequencies. Looking behind the scenes, we could take a look at an impulse, a single sample, full frequency spectrum waveform, used for measurement since it offers a solid way to determine how transients will be affected by a processor. Look at how drastically this function alters it. Consider what this means for the transients in your signal. Not only are the unique overtones attenuated, but the ADSR is completely different. Like, here's what that looks like with a single frequency sine wave of varying amplitudes. Any change in amplitude is reshaped by this function, with the most aggressive changes occurring to high frequencies. Now, people complain about the effect of pre-ringing distortion from linear phase filtering, but this is so much more aggressive and destructive than simple linear phase filtering. Now, to be fair, this isn't the only function that causes unexpected changes to the transients. The warm function, which I like a lot, drastically changes the ADSR, but at least it adds something valuable in exchange. So I don't understand this trend, and I'm sorry if I'm annoying some of y'all about this, but I'm passionate about things sounding good, and this seems more like a marketing gimmick than something that'll actually help engineers achieve better mixes. So just for reference, here's the EQ affecting the high range of an instrument. Does it honestly sound better to you with its problem frequencies attenuated? Let me know about it in the comments.
She reminds me of a cold, dark summer's night when I'm staring at the lights and I'm hoping that there could be something more here. She reminds me of a cold, dark summer's night when I'm staring at the lights and I'm hoping that there could be something more here. But she's looking the other way and I'm wishing I could be something that she could hold on to, but you're not here. But she's looking the other way and I'm wishing I could be something that she could hold on to, but you're not here.
Make mixes that accurately translate what you hear in your head without years of practice or expensive plugins. Seriously though, when people work with us, they get results. That's why major industry professionals like Keith Urban's producer Aaron Schurz works with us, Grammy Award-winning AJ Castillo, Billboard #1 charted artist Megan Lindsay, Grammy Award-winning artist Toulis, The Voice singer Cody Ballou, Grammy-nominated producer Tyler Kane, Warner Music artist Ricky Young, and the list goes on. Why waste your time creating mixes that look like this when you can instantly fix the problem by working directly with professionals who have already done what you're trying to do? Watch this entire video, and at the end, learn how you can start making mixes that accurately translate what you hear in your head. So we've covered the good and the bad. Here's the unnecessary. So other folks reviewing this plugin have all said pretty similar things. The draw function is kind of cool, but I don't think I'll be using it. And that about sums it up. It's a new feature that seems to add value, but it doesn't really. The more time you spend trying to draw in your filters, the more likely it is that you'll add something you don't want, which to me at least incentivizes quick and frankly borderline thoughtless changes to the frequency response. Given how drastically EQ changes the sound of a track, it's not something to rush. It deserves to be approached with a certain level of intentionality. Now, like other people who have reviewed it, I see why it's appealing. It feels like a more creative way to introduce EQ, but maybe it needed more time and some fine-tuning to be the innovative feature that FabFilter wanted it to be. But these are just my thoughts about this plugin. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you're going to get the plugin, if you're not, if you're going to stick with the Pro-Q4, or if you're going to upgrade. Let me know down below. Make mixes that accurately translate what you hear in your head, without years of practice or expensive plugins. Seriously though, when people work with us, they get results. That's why major industry professionals like Keith Urban's producer Aaron Schurz works with us, Grammy Award-winning AJ Castillo, Billboard #1 charted artist Megan Lindsay, Grammy Award-winning artist Toulis, The Voice singer Cody Ballou, Grammy-nominated producer Tyler Kane, Warner Music artist Ricky Young, and the list goes on. Why waste your time creating mixes that look like this when you can instantly fix the problem by clicking the link in the description and working directly with professionals who have already done what you're trying to do? We've helped 2,346 clients make mixes that accurately translate what they hear in their heads without years of practice or expensive plugins, and it'll work for you too. Click the link in the description and get direct access to us for custom analog mastering, one-on-one mixing feedback, in-depth mixing and mastering courses, and our thriving community. Click the link in the description now to start making mixes that accurately translate what you hear in your head.